Welcome to the pilot edition of Movie Crushers Crushing Other Movie Crushers. Probably a name that needs to be improved upon. My name is Brian Ridge. I've just been a member of the Movie Crushers online and a podcast listener to Movie Crush with Chuck Bryant since its inception. And I had a bit of an idea, and this is our first kind of test run at that. And the idea is simply just like what the name sounds. Instead of having professional podcaster Chuck Bryant extraordinaire doing interviews with famous people about their favorite movies, we're going to do that same type of thing. Tremendously unprofessional podcaster, unskilled Brian Ridge and other people might pick up the flame as well, interviewing other movie crushers, talking about their favorite movies. So just an intent to keep our great community alive, to maybe spark it a little bit and keep the flame that Chuck lit a little while ago still burning. Hopefully it's a good idea. Maybe we'll do more of these. Maybe it's going to be one and done. Who knows? Anyway, try to make this preamble not too long. I reached out to a fellow movie crusher and asked if they were up for it, and they said absolutely yes. So I'm very glad to announce that David Gooch has said yes, and today we're going to talk about one of his favorite films. Anyone that's listened to the movie Mini Crushes, Chuck and Noel would almost every time pick a comment or something that David Gooch had put online, and every time they would say the Gooch after saying David Gooch. So for some reason, David seemed like a great choice from that. He's always been out there and active in the community. So when I asked him and he said yes, it just seemed great. What movie has the Gooch asked to talk about today? Well, it is an absolute classic, lauded, a universally acclaimed film. We're going to take Chuck and Josh's Wayback Machine. We're just going to borrow it. We're going to give it back nicely. We're going to take it back to 1942 to talk about a little film called Casablanca. So that's David's choice, and enough of this preamble. Let's get right to it. David, how are we doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Excited to do this. It's a pretty fun idea. I think other people have bounced it around before, so it's nice to see somebody actually jumping in and trying it out. I agree. On my side, it will be very amateurish as well, so I think we're in the same boat. But
your sound is good on my end. You're well-spoken, so I think you're going to be the guy to raise the bar. You mentioned other people have thought about doing this. I hadn't caught that.
I've just seen on the Facebook group, people have suggested it. I don't think anybody has ever come out with the idea of them actually doing it. Just people oh, it'd be a good idea if somebody did this. And yeah, it would be. Somebody do it.
There we have it. How did you become a movie crusher? Paint us that picture.
Well, I think a lot of people assume fan of Stuff You Should Know, so I was listening to that for years. When I heard that there was going to be a Chuck podcast about movies, which is a subject that I'm fairly passionate about, I was really excited to hear about that. So I started listening to that and then found the Facebook group, jumped in there, and then just started being part of that community. Mostly, I think I would probably reply more than do my own posts, but I try to stay pretty active.
You do, and I want to tell you, I'm not 100% sure why I chose you. That's the first name that came to mind. You might remember I did a silly Game of Thrones contest a long time ago, predict in season 7, whatever it is, who lives and who dies. And I had about 100 or some people participate, and you were the victor. You were the guy that won, took home the check, or actually not took home a check. We gave to charity.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was one of Lena Headey's charities. It was for what was it for? For refugees. I don't remember what the name of the charity was, but yeah. But I thought it tied in pretty well. Something that my favorite character, the actress behind that, was promoting. So just seemed to make sense, and it's a good cause, help refugees.
Yep. Well, you deserved it. You beat out 100 some people with your passion for movies must translate to your ability to predict George R.R. Martin storylines, because you got more people alive and dead than anybody else in that contest.
Apparently, I'm a big Game of Thrones nerd, so I think that helped a little bit.
Good for you that we have a lot of things in common. You mentioned you've got a passion for movies. Where does that, how'd that start? How deep a passion? Did you ever pursue anything?
I've never pursued anything. I've taken several film classes in college. I was really big as a kid into special effects. Big fan of all the Ray Harryhausen stuff, Clash of the Titans, Jason the Argonauts, all that. And so when I was a kid, I thought maybe I'd get into special effects. So it was also very artistic younger on. And then that just kind of rolled into just other parts of the movie making process I started to be fascinated about. I had thought about getting into acting for a little bit as a young adult. That never really went anywhere. I was in a short independent film that a friend of mine did, so I do have an IMDb credit to my name. But other than that, then I started writing in college, but I went down the fine arts path instead, and that just all kind of fell by the wayside. But I still love, I try to see, well, in the before times, I tried to see at least one movie a week in the theaters. Now I try and see at least one at home, but have been getting back to the theaters a little bit more.
Good. I've yet to jump into the theater yet, but I've been on a plane. So hopefully this silly coronavirus stuff, we're starting to get through it. Going to a movie theater and getting some popcorn. I need to get that on the, I guess it's been almost a year and a half plus even since I've done that. And I miss it. I do. I'm a movie fan as well. So cool. I bet there's a lot of movie crushers that have a similar background. They love a little bit of taste of the industry. And then, real life kind of took over. Sounds like for you, similar to what I had as well. And I didn't think I was going to be, interviewing famous people. You have an IMDb mention. So
two, actually. I was had a brief stint on Yo Gabba Gabba. And by brief, I mean about 3 seconds of screen time.
Oh, that's three more than I'll ever have for sure. I don't know how you eluded Chuck's gaze and how you were not interviewed with that huge background you have of being famous. 3 seconds on whatever that show was. You chose Casablanca, so as we do these things, if it's a one and done or if it's one and many. I don't think I'm going to really care if it was covered before, but I don't think Casablanca was ever covered in Movie Crush, and it seems like an obvious omission. One of the most classic films of all time. How did you come about making that your choice to talk about today?
I think that's part of it. Is I'm pretty sure it has not been covered, and I think that Chuck has even gone on record saying that he's never seen it. Wow. So those two, plus the fact it's just one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's a perfectly made Hollywood film. Just great acting, great writing, just top to bottom. I think it's very entertaining, very quick moving, and it's just a fun movie. It was a little ambitious to go that high, but figure why not?
Reach for the stars. Yeah, I rewatched it. I've certainly watched it in the past. I don't know how many times, at least a couple times. And I appreciate it. It was good to revisit it. And I agree with what you said. It's 80 years old. It was made a long time ago, but I think it really still holds up. And I was entertained I was kind of drawn on by the characters. It's not, the newest, fancy special effects or stuff like that, which are probably overdone today anyway. But the characters were most interesting, and it'd probably been 20 years since I'd seen it last, and I got caught into the story a little bit. So, thanks for choosing it. As you think about Casablanca, you kind of mentioned some of the did you say perfectly made movie or a well-made movie? That resonates with me. Can you talk about how you think it just tells the story efficiently, or why you think it that way?
I think the biggest thing is the script, which is kind of funny because I believe that it was rewritten about 6 times and was still being rewritten while they were shooting. And I was reading an article earlier today, actually, talking about how Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman both thought that the script was terrible, and they thought the movie was going to be a big bomb, and didn't enjoy working on it, which is ironic because now it's considered by many to be one of the greatest scripts of all time. I think it's really funny, which is like interesting for what is ostensibly a war adjacent movie. There's a lot of jokes, a lot of great one-liners. I mean, obviously there's many classic lines that everybody knows or thinks they know. And then the performances, Ingrid Bergman is just top notch in this. Just the way they'll just linger on her face and just her facial expressions are so great. And Humphrey Bogart, the classic, just cool guy that you think doesn't care about anybody, but turns out he has a heart after all. It's just all the it's a lot of tropes, but it was before they were tropes.
Yeah, I agree. And Humphrey Bogart, I think, is when you say it's humorous, his one-liners, which I remembered a few, but his, quick repartee with the Germans or with the guys in charge there in Casablanca are hold up to modern standards. I think, you think of the movies you really like the dialogue from. I think Casablanca set a early bar that was really, really high.
Oh yeah. There's so many. Yeah. That scene where they're at the table with the Strasser and Renault, and Strasser asks him what nationality he is. And he's like, I'm a drunkard. And Renault just like right away is like, that makes Rick a citizen of the world. It's just like such a good, like quick-witted like banter in the movie.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I didn't remember the French guy in charge of the town. It's played by Claude Rains.
Yeah, Captain Renault.
Renault. To me, that character, I'd forgotten it, and I really enjoyed it. I think as a kid, I might have thought, this is kind of an immoral character. But, it's kind of a realistic character. He certainly is immoral, I agree as well. But they kind of become friends. They have an understanding of where they are. And, the actor, I think, just does a great job of not looking like they're acting. I was really impressed with that role as I watched it again. I probably missed that before.
Yeah, he's tremendous as well. Definitely there's elements of his character that does not stand up today. I mean, the fact that his big thing is selling letters of transit to young women in exchange for sex. Not the greatest look nowadays.
Very well. But back in 1942 either, but certainly not.
Definitely not now, but probably not then either.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of great lines as well. And there's one that's not his line. It's a Humphrey Bogart line where there's a young woman that comes to Humphrey Bogart to ask if he's reliable, that he will actually give the letters of transit if she just suggests it. She doesn't outright say it. And she's like, are you here alone? Like, oh, my husband's here too. And he says, oh, I guess Renault is getting more open-minded. And I think that's just one of a really funny line. But it also leads into a great scene where Humphrey Bogart rigs the table for the husband so she doesn't have to deal with that. And that's, I think, the first time where you see that Rick really is a sentimentalist, as Renault would say.
Perfect. I agree. So we get Rick set up as a uncaring, person. He's got in the early, there's his girlfriend that he treats fairly harshly and sends home, and she's obviously upset. And he couldn't seem to give a lick about that. But then you're right. He sacrifices huge sums of money and, his own freedom in the end. So it seems like this character that's portrayed as carefree and unempathetic choose to be the most sacrificing of anyone in the movie.
Yeah. And I think there's little hints of that even in that scene that you're talking about when he sends Yvonne home for being too drunk and has Sasha get her a cab and then tells him, make sure she gets home, but come right back. I think there's a little bit of that kind of empathy leaking out that you see just in little things like that.
Yeah, I think in my youth, I didn't pick up as much innuendo in this movie as I did later. Those old Hollywood classic movies, right? If characters, did become intimate sexually, it was never shown or talked about. It was just, it was a fade to a fuzzy scene, or they're, playing a board game later, something like that we're supposed to, in our mature age, I guess, really recognize what happened in between the scenes.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of innuendo, especially with the Rick and Ilsa scenes where they had some kind of relationship in Paris, but even at the end, when she comes to his room that night and he tells Victor Laszlo, like she like tried to, I forget the words exactly, but she tried to make me believe that she still loved me, and I let her. That's definitely some serious innuendo there on what happened that night.
Yep, absolutely. Construction wise, I looked at it and I remembered it as, a pretty simple static shot type of thing. But as I looked at it now, a lot of the movie is kind of shot, single shot, cut from, two cameras from perspective. But then I noticed this time that there was quite a bit of kind of dramatic shadowing and lighting effects and camera movements that I just didn't remember in movies made 80 years ago. It seemed to be a little progressive that way. I'm curious if you had the same thought or not.
Yeah, the lighting, I think, is one of the big things that's pretty amazing, especially in Rick's Cafe Americain. It's very dark, so a lot of the lighting is lit from the actual lamps on the tables, so you get a lot of like harsh shadows and that. But then there's also a lot of long shots in those scenes. There was one in particular where I can't remember who, like Victor Laszlo and Ilsa were talking at the bar, I believe, and then they walk off screen and Rick comes in on screen from the back, but then the camera pans to follow them while Rick is coming through the other side, which is a really interesting shot because it's a lot of moving parts. It's a very long shot without a cut. But yeah, the shadows in there are great. And then I love when they go to the Blue Parrot, which is Ferrari's bar, and that's just very brightly lit. It's very airy, and he's a more sinister character. So I think that's an interesting thing where the guy that's kind of a more sinistery has this very bright, he's wearing all white, he has a white hat, and it's very fun atmosphere. But then on Rick's Cafe, it's very dark and dimly lit. And I think it was an interesting choice.
Yeah, nice perspective. I didn't think of it, but I remember it vividly that the bars obviously look very different, and the lighting changes in shots, which I thought was unique. As we kind of talk about the movie, a couple things kind of jump to my mind. One of which is just the environment they build for this movie seems to be highly original, but also super effective. I mean, this is a wartime movie. You said it's war adjacent, which I think is a really good way of putting it. We're not in the throes of, where the war is occurring in Paris or other parts of the world. We're in this little segmented area, which seems like kind of a neutral zone, the way they portray it, which I don't think is historically accurate. I think the Nazis really did control
I think there's a lot that's not historically accurate.
Yeah, and you couldn't get a magic letter and suddenly go off to America. But anyway, it allows us to see Germans in a different light, where they're interacting with French, where they're interacting with American and other Europeans. And we have this freedom fighter, Laszlo, who is wanted by these guys, and they're all intermixed in this kind of environment where it's a little free for all, but it's called the Wild West of the World War II. It's not quite Nazi. It's not quite free. And I think that, fabricated as it is a really interesting way of telling a war story. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think it's great how they set this up, especially in the beginning scenes where you really have a feel of where you're at in the world, even though, I mean, physically you're in Morocco, but just in this world of the movie, that they'll have little vignettes with different characters, bargaining to sell something or just sitting at the bar and talking. You get to know characters like Sasha and Yvonne and Carl, which all have maybe 5 minutes of screen time each, but you feel like you really know those characters just in the quick interactions that they do. And you feel opening on the market scene, you see that young couple that later comes to Rick to ask about if Renault's trustworthy or not, but they're in that opening scene, in the market, which is already establishes them there, and you get to know all the people. I love the guy. I don't remember what his name is. I don't know if they even say it, but it's the pickpocket that just comes around and it's like vultures everywhere, vultures, and like so like how this world works and these characters, and it like feels really alive.
Cool. I agree with everything there. I did like the pickpocket who acts like he's helping, but at the same time he's simply the guy pickpocketing.
He's great.
It's a good character. I've asked you a couple pointy questions. I'll just say openly, as you looked at it again, what did you discover? What did you enjoy, or did you find things that didn't hold up as well as this more modern viewing?
One thing that I really loved that I don't think I ever thought about before, but really noticed this time is the use of diegetic music. So obviously with Sam and the band playing, there's like constantly songs going on, and I had looked up some of them. There's one, the woman, I don't know if she's supposed to be Spanish or Italian, but she sings a song called the Tango Bella Rosa, which I might be mispronouncing. And I looked that up, and it's all about a man who has a woman break his heart. And then during the Paris scene, there's another song that is the same theme, where like a man has a woman break his heart. And so that's interesting how that like keeps coming back up throughout the movie, and it's like built into the actual movie. It's not just playing over the action. It's actually in the movie, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, layers, little depth to it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just how much it holds up. I think like Rick and Sam's relationship seems like pretty like even. I mean, obviously Rick is his boss, so there's like there's that dichotomy, but it feels like a real friendship. And even when he sells the bar, he tells Ferrari that Sam gets 25% of the sales, and Ferrari's like, I know he gets 10%, but he's worth 25. I think it just really goes to show how much he cares about him as well. Say there is the one scene where Ilsa like asks who the boy playing the piano is. That does not hold up, but for the most part, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that really works well even today.
Yeah, I agree. There's the scene earlier where he asked to take Sam away, and he said, "Go ask him." He's already have plenty of money, and you see it's reciprocal. They're looking out for each other. There's a mutual respect there. I kind of ruined it this time. Not entirely ruined it, but it certainly changed it. And for those movie crushers that might watch this and then watch the movie, I forewarn you, block off 20 seconds. I listened to Roger Ebert's take on the movie, which is available on YouTube for free. You see the whole movie, and Roger Ebert simply talks through the entire film. And obviously he loves the film and, certainly knows a lot about it. One thing he mentions is Sam actually can't play the piano. He's a drummer and he can sing. But for whatever reason, they decided, let's have him play the piano. I guess drums don't work out as well. And if you watch him, they don't even try to have him play the piano. He just kind of pats his hands up and down. I don't think he's pressing the keys. They keep it on camera quite a bit. If it's a high, loud, he doesn't move around much. He just kind of goes like this a little bit. And as I watched it this time, I kind of felt myself focused on there. It probably, unless you knew, you would never notice. But Sam's not playing the piano. This just in.
Yeah, I had never noticed that, I don't think, until you brought it up. But it's really funny when you watch it. And then I looked it up, and he doesn't hit the keys because there is an actual piano player off screen that's playing the piano at the time. So he can't hit the keys or else it'll ruin the whole scene, which is kind of, I guess, pre being able to do things ADR. It's very interesting.
It didn't interfere until I knew it. Once I knew it,
it's very obviously, once you know, it's very obvious.
Yeah. And the other tidbit of information as I looked up, or actually I think Roger even mentioned it as well, and I verified it, is that Miss Bergman is taller than Humphrey Bogart, and Ingrid is about 5'10"ish, and apparently Bogart's about 5'8". So different scenes, he might be sitting on pillows, might be sitting on a little book or something like that, or just by angles, they didn't want to make her tower above him, but you wouldn't have thought that by watching the movie. They seem to be, height-wise, pretty copacetic. But in real life, apparently, she was a couple inches taller than him.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, I think that happened a lot to him in his career, but it is interesting watching like a lot of the scenes where she'll sit down on the couch when they're in Paris, but she like kind of lays down and instead of just sitting next to him, just to like keep that dichotomy of because the man's got to be taller.
Yep,
That's how it goes in Hollywood.
I think you've inspired me to try to watch more Humphrey Bogart movies. I know I've seen a few, but his character is so rich and nuanced in this movie. I'm just betting that a lot of that is the charisma of the actor himself. And I know he had a long career. I think I've watched a few other movies with him in it, but not a lot. So I might IMDb. After I IMDb your impressive pages, I might jump over to see what they say about Humphrey Bogart and check out another flick or two of his. Any suggestions? I don't know if you're.
I mean, obviously he's a legend. He's done so many movies. Maltese Falcon, another one of my favorites. Again, another one where it's just a lot of it's carried on Humphrey Bogart's charisma. Also has a lot of the same actors. Sidney Greenstreet plays a big role. I believe Peter Lorre is still in that one. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's great. African Queen is classic.
Yep.
Trying to think off the top of my head. I can't.
Those are the big ones.
A lot of the other
I've
ones.
seen those, but I know it's been a long time, and I know I enjoyed them. And I forgot Peter Lorre was in Casablanca, and obviously it's an early character, and he's so young. I think, oh, that's Peter Lorre, isn't it? I'm surprised he didn't get, I know him from so many movies that he didn't get bigger billing than I remembered. Again, I was just a kid, so my memory fades.
It's funny because that character is so memorable that it feels like he's a bigger part of the movie, but he's only in like the first 10 minutes, and then he's arrested and killed off screen. But I do love what like his intro is when Rick is telling some high-ranking guy that he can't come into the casino, and then Peter Lorre's Ugarte just like sneaks by and like oh hi Rick, and just like walks in, and it's like, and he's like a low life, but he's welcome in like without problem because he's a regular. I just love little moments like that.
Yeah, movies filled with those things. Before I move on to a couple of general questions, any other thoughts about any you would like to inspire movie crushers to watch the movie? Any suggestions?
Well, I gotta mention the best scene in the movie is when Victor Laszlo has the band play Les Marseillais while the Germans are singing. I forget what the name of the song they're singing, but it's such a moving moment, and it's like nice that the band like looks to Rick and he gives a nod, and then they start playing it, and then everybody in the bar starts singing the song. And the
Germans try to get louder, but they're just drowned out.
They're just overpowered because every single person in the bar is singing. And I guess I was looking it up, and I guess a lot of the people were like actual refugees at the time, because it's filmed in 1941, 42, and so there's a lot of like real emotion in that building at the time, which is like makes it feel even more like powerful.
Yeah, and I again, as I watched it, I'm thinking this was made in 1941, released in 1942. This is the heart of the war. They're talking about a war that's not finished. This is, Germany probably still had control of most of Europe at this time, a lot of drama and things like that. And that had to make the movie so much more special in its day, even though, like you said, it's war adjacent. It seems like a movie you would have made after the war, but they were able to pull this thing off very effectively while fighting was still in the throes.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. And especially like they mentioned concentration camps, and like they're not mincing words about what's going on.
Yeah, it's not just a Hollywood, let's just remake some movie and make some money. It's got a little real life to it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I have at least one more thing, as Chuck does on his movie Crush. He asked the guests 5 questions. I didn't preface you this for that, but I'm sure you can handle it. So this whole thing, let's give honor where it's due. Movie Crush wouldn't exist, the Movie Crusher page on Facebook. So all this is an homage to him, and I'm continuing the homage with his questions. So first question, do you know what you
All
remember
right.
what the first question is?
I don't remember. It's been a while since he's done the 5 questions. I forget.
I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have had a chance. I had to listen back to a couple to make sure I remembered as well. What was the first movie you remember seeing in a theater?
Oh, that I remember seeing is probably E.T. I think I was probably 5 at the time because it was back in the time where a movie would come out, it would be playing in a theater for like a year and a half. So I remember going to the drive-in, being about 5, and sitting on the car hood watching E.T. I don't remember if that was actually the first movie I saw, but that's the first one I remember for sure. And I remember having a crush on little Drew Barrymore because she was, I think, 6 at that time. So
Cute as a button, yeah, and apparently age appropriate for you at that time.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty high bar to start your movie. I'm going to watch Spielberg film day one of the most popular movies of all time. So hopefully,
Yeah.
it's good that you continued your movie love.
I mean, that was definitely got me off to a good path on loving movies.
Did you cry when E.T. was?
Oh God, well, I still cry.
Oh, it's impossible.
He's in that river, all white. Like, oh no,
Oh, yeah,
it's heartbreaking.
it
My
is.
wife hates that movie because E.T. scared her as a kid, so we don't ever get to watch that together. So I have to rewatch it on my own when I do.
All right. Well, I can see how it being scared, but I think I'm assuming your wife is of an age she should not be scared by ET anymore. But I still get scared by the monkeys in I can't think of
Wizard
their
of
name.
Oz.
Wizard of Oz. Yeah, those monkeys come
Yeah.
out. I got to leave the room. They're just waiting.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're terrifying.
Thank you. What was the first R-rated movie you remember seeing?
Oh, that's a tough. I think probably Revenge of the Nerds. I assume that's R-rated because there was a lot of sex and nudity in
It's
that.
a lot of R. I remember it. It was
Yeah,
formative
that was
years for
one.
me, yes.
Yeah, it was. As a kid, my dad would let me watch that because he thought it was hilarious, and so he would let me like watch Revenge of the Nerds, like I don't know, 7, 8 years old, and
I remember
Probably.
watching that with friends many, many times for the comedy, and probably a little bit for the R-rated content as well. But it was a funny movie.
it was funny. There's definitely a lot in that movie that does not hold up well.
I bet.
It was still funny.
Third question of 5: will you walk out on a bad movie? You're not having a good time. It's pretty crappy. Do you get up and walk out, or you sit there and trudge through?
Oh no, I will sit and watch any movie, at least if I'm in the theater. If it's at home, I'll just turn something off. But if I'm in the theater, I'll power through and just at least enjoy how bad it is. Because I take a lot of joy in bad movies. I just watched the new Venom movie the other day, and that was terrible, but thoroughly enjoyed every second of it.
I watched the first Venom the other day to get ready for the second one. I've not seen the second one yet. I enjoyed the first one. It's campy, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Intentionally. I don't know if the second one did you like the second one worse or about the same as the first or different?
I like the first one better. I feel like the second one, everybody's in on the joke, where the first one, a lot of the actors didn't know that it was supposed to be that campy. Like Tom Hardy got it for sure, but I feel like a lot of the other actors weren't in. But this one, it seems like everybody's in on the joke. But then you get Tom Hardy and Woody Harrelson just going all in on overacting, which is like, I'm fine with that. It's fun for me.
Good.
My wife hated it too. But
I like that. I like any film. I think even if it's bad, you for me, I think thinking about the construction of the film or how bad this guy's. I'm now in it. I'm not tired into the story. I could care less about, but seeing weird choices and things like that and noticing, I think I'm in the same camp. I don't get up and walk away. What have you been watching recently? Any suggestions, either movie or TV or documentaries that you might have for me or the crushers out there?
A lot of TV lately. There's a lot of like good to really good stuff on TV right now. Been watching. I've just finished Ted Lasso season 2. That's great show. What We Do in the Shadows, hilarious. Started Y the Last Man just because I was a big fan of the comic books when they were out, so I was excited to finally see that, and I think they're doing a really good job with that. Only Murders in the Building, I think, is the best best new show, at least, of the year. I did not have high hopes for that, just because sometimes Martin Short can be a little too much, but somehow Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez all tremendous, and they all work well together, which kind of surprises me, but love it. And then a lot of other like little bits here and there, but those are probably the four that I've been committing to a lot lately.
I got three of those. I've not finished the Only Murders in the Building, but I'm about 3 or 4 episodes in, and I have the same thought. Martin Short to me often is just over the top with everything, and he's certainly a strong character, but not in a way that takes you out of the story. It seems cute and fun, and a good little premise.
And he has so many great like emotional moments too, and like he's probably the best on the show, I think. But love the other two. Never thought I would just be a huge Selena Gomez fan either, but here we are, 2021.
Very cool. Last of the 5 questions. You probably remember this when I started off. What are your theater rituals? You've been back to the theater a time or two. What do you do? What candy, popcorn? Where do you sit?
I try and sit in like upper middle, but by the aisle, which is not what most people do. But I'll usually, if the theater sells beer, I'll usually have one, and then that means I'm going to have to go to the bathroom at some point.
Utility of the aisle is what draws.
Yeah, so
cinematic.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to bug. And I know if it's a movie that I like, I'll probably see it again anyway. Yeah, I don't do a lot of snacks. Might get popcorn once in a while. Not a big candy fan, but yeah. I've also I got to scout out where the bathroom is so I can get in and out as fast as possible.
Perfect. That works. I will say a couple things, and I'll let you kind of close the session for us. Just again, thanks to you. Thanks to whatever movie crusher might watch this thing. If Chuck says this is a forbidden thing, it's just you and me that will see this, but I kind of wanted to bounce that off the iHeart guys. And obviously thanks for Chuck and Noel and the many guests we had over the years. I was looking over the catalog today, and we're all a little sad that went away, but we respect the choice. Obviously, it's a wise and brave thing that he did after devoting so much time. And frankly, watching this movie and getting you scheduled, taught me that it ain't super easy. It takes quite a bit of time even to be an amateur and do this stuff. And like I said several times, thanks so much for your insights. Thanks for being a good internet friend for the whole community and for me for participating with this. And thanks for choosing a great movie and spending some time with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. Definitely, I've never done any podcasting before either, so it was a little bit of a interesting learning curve to do this, but it was a good time, and hopefully there'll be more in the future, and I'm excited to listen to what other people choose.
Sounds great. Enjoy your evening, kind sir.
Thanks. You too. Cool. Thanks.